Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought we would have a look at the suggestions passed to developers for August of 2025 again. This time we'll have a look at the mechanics section, since there is some pretty interesting stuff here and it's worth kind of going over. Obviously it's taken a little bit of time to be able to get to this, but just understand that's because of the fact that Gaijin has been releasing so many new things, and also there's a bunch of other games that are coming out which I want to cover for you guys too, since they seem pretty awesome. Anyway, let's get into the suggestions. If you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe and also like the video. Let's go. The first suggestion is a variation on one of the maps we already have in game, Normandy, and the idea would be a high tide version of it. In 1944, the German command, including Rommel, believed that the Allied landing on the continent would take place during a high tide. This would shorten the distance from the shoreline to the Atlantic Wall by hundreds of meters, thus making the assault much easier. Based on this assumption, mines, explosives, and anti-tank obstacles were installed along the Atlantic coast to hinder the coalition's landing. However, as we know, the landing on the 6th of June was carried out during low tide, which was a big surprise for the German command. They thought that due to the unfavorable weather and also tides, the landing wouldn't occur before August. So, the idea of this map is a what if, and the map itself is of course the Normandy one. Based on information from open sources and also the in-game map, we can assume that the maximum height or range of the tides was around 20 feet. This is confirmed by the established breakwaters, beach sand where the tides reach, and also small boats that the lighthouse keeper had to use to get the lighthouse during high tide. It's also known from these sources that the tide occurred twice a day, and that on the 6th of June at 6 to 7 there was a full low tide, and the time between low tide and high tide was about 5 hours. So low tides at 6 and high tides at 11 and 11. So the idea would be to take the map that we already have, which is the Normandy map, and add a higher tide to it, therefore taking up a lot of the beach, so therefore changing the way that the game works. Another idea would be to have a dynamic real-time tide, which would actually affect how the map is played while everything is moving around, which might be interesting to see at some point. The next suggestion is for a decal, and it's for the Israeli Air Force, specifically the 101st Squadron. It's one of the oldest aviation squadrons from Israel, and also in this squadron, Gloria Epstein ended up serving, who is regarded as an ace of aces, has 17 confirmed kills, which is pretty crazy, especially since Epstein flew the Mirage 3C and also had the 101st Squadron emblem on his tail. The next one is basically about modding the game, and it's about adding short names for gun ammunition. So if you didn't know, when it comes to the files, there are specific weapons that have quote-unquote short names, whereas there are other ones which don't. For example, missiles have short names, and other ones such as gun ammunition and things like that do not. So therefore, if you are modifying the name of a missile, first of all, it's a little bit easier to do, and second of all, it basically means that when you actually write what is supposed to be there, your name doesn't get cut off with whatever you've kind of put there. So the idea would be to make it so it's a bit easier to actually modify these by giving it its short name and also having its long name too, which is how a lot of other parts of the game work apart from these specific ones we're talking about. So basically, gun ammunition for tanks, ships, aircraft, and helicopters don't have short names. So the idea would be to bring them in line with everything else, so therefore it's easier to mod. There is also a call for a new US pilot model for modern helicopters. Currently in game, all US helicopters use the Vietnam War era pilot model, and obviously since we have got more and more modern helicopters in the game, it doesn't exactly fit, kind of like how they added in some modern pilots for some airplanes as well a little bit back. So there are some options that could come in, such as different helmets that could turn up, and also, I suppose, different genders as well, if they wanted to try some different things. The basic thing would be more customization, basically in the forms of helmets and also in the forms of what they wear. The next suggestion is profile titles, but for vehicles. The idea is a mechanic that would allow players to unlock profile titles, but which can be assigned to individual vehicles. So naming individual vehicles is something that real crews have done a lot throughout history. The way this could be represented in War Thunder would be to have a grindable pool of names that you can assign to your vehicles when you unlock them. This is similar to how profile titles work already. Specific game actions, whether in random battles or in events, and the Battle Pass can unlock new profile titles for players to use them. There are also a few characteristics of specifically naming vehicles that present unique advantages. Number 1, it allows the player to further customize their favorite vehicles and provides a motivation to grind or complete specific game tasks. Number 2, while you can only use one profile title at a time, there are over 2,000 vehicles in War Thunder. The ability to assign names to individual vehicles would give even veteran players another goal to look forward to, while also being intuitively friendly to newer players. And number 3, the fact is it's a very flexible system, meaning that you could change stuff as going on. After this, we have examples of how this would basically work. So first of all, you have pages of history. Basically, it would be quite easy to tie vehicle titles to pages of history by going with historical names actually given to individual vehicles in the past. The examples could be Moritz, which was a Sturm Meal, or the Eagle, which of course was be a Churchill. You could also do game actions, events, and the Battle Pass, so generic names could be tied to accomplishments of specific in-game actions and achievements. Events and Battle Passes could include more thematic vehicle titles, which go with the general flavor of the overall event. And also, of course, War Thunder could do a bunch of collabs. So depending on the specifics, of course, this could potentially allow for grindable vehicle names that fit the theme of the collab, like similar to stuff like Atomic Heart that was there previously. You could also have some camos, potentially some vehicle names could even be attached to individual camos, and another idea could be to have a few special vehicle titles that get unlocked after playing a vehicle over an extensive period of time. Some players specialize and play a handful of vehicles a lot. It would be potentially fun to give them something to grind, beyond, for example, acing a crew that does not confer them a competitive advantage over other players, but is a cosmetic one. So overall, I think it would be quite nice in order to have this. I think I would probably make it so it's only on the player side of things, because it could get a little bit weird when basically you're looking at vehicles and then everything just has a name attached to it. It just makes it a little bit more clustered on the screen in terms of text. But if it's from a only player's perspective and not the enemies or allies' perspective, sounds great. Those are all the suggestions for the mechanics for August of 2025. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.